Good evening. We are on Power, a platform where we have quality conversations. Our hope is that our viewers, especially the young ones, will get something that stand out to them out of these conversations. Today, we are lucky to have Mr. Kelton Drew, who is joining us in our quality conversation for today. Good evening, Mr. Drew, and welcome to Power.
Sure. Welcome. Thank you, Meritus. Please, just call me Drew. We're friends, so you don't have to. There's no Mister. We're good.
All right, awesome. Tell us a little bit about you. Who is Drew for our viewers?
So I am a administrator at Wellesley High School. I've been an administrator now for I think this is my 12th year, maybe 13th year. Um, Prior to being an administrator, I was a social studies teacher as well. And then prior to getting into education, I had a successful career as a sales rep in Boston. And
Aha.
I guess I would use the word successful in loosely in terms of um, success in terms of financial success, but I would say not as fulfilling. And so, for me, that probably is the most uh, the part of this that wasn't as successful because I didn't find it fulfilling.
Okay, great. So successful, not fulfilling.
Yes,
That
correct.
is great. Maybe we will come back to this.
Yes.
So you have been an educator for a while, 12 years as an administrator and
Hmm.
many years as a social studies teacher. Can you
Absolutely.
tell us a little bit about your career as an educator, both
Yeah.
as a teacher and as an administrator?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, I came to teaching late, and a really good friend of mine suggested that I get involved in teaching. And it was never on my radar as, growing up in terms of when I went to college, it was never on my radar. Um, and like I said, I came to teaching late, but as an educator, um, I just felt at the end of the day. I had these emotions and these feelings that were uplifting. And for me, that was really the genesis of me getting into this career. And so I still love the classroom. I didn't become an administrator because I hated the classroom. In fact, I was really successful as a teacher. I had what would be the Wellesley equivalent of Teacher of the Year. I had won that. So I had some success um, as a teacher. I just knew that I wanted a bigger voice, and I wanted more of a voice in shaping the direction of the school. And then probably the second part of why I wanted to become an administrator is I wanted something I didn't have, right? I as a high school student, as a elementary school student, as a middle school student, I didn't have many people of color um, in my life with respect to education, and I just felt like, boy, that would have been a big deal for a young man who was developing and growing up, having someone that understood my story that I could trust and lean into. Um, and so that's probably why I got into the other reason why I got into it. I wanted kids of color to see somebody of color in positions of leadership. And then I wanted, to be quite honest, I wanted white students and white families to see black people in positions of leadership.
This is great. Here you are, you didn't have a lot of role model as a black teacher or administrator, and here you are as an administrator, a great role model for our younger students. Do you, but I still want to get back to this question. Do you remember a moment in your life, like specifically, an event? You said that somebody, a friend of yours, suggested that you get into education. Do you remember what specifically happened? Like, tell us a little bit about that conversation, that moment.
Absolutely. I'll tell you exactly what happened.
Mhm.
I was coming home. So I was living, I was college graduate living in Boston. I had a bunch of roommates that I was friends with, and I was working downtown Boston. And I had to take the where I lived. I lived in Brighton, so I had to take the bus to the train to get into downtown Boston. And I remember distinctly it was a crisp fall night, and I was coming home. I making my commute home, and I was on the 33 bus in going through Brighton. Okay, and I looked at all the faces of the people on the bus, and they looked so sad. And I literally was saying, I must look like that too. And at that point, I said, this isn't for me. This isn't fulfilling for me. And so at that moment, I called my buddy. When I got home, I called him and I said, what do I need to do to be a teacher? Because I need to make a change. And he said, he knew I was a history major, so he knew I had like the coursework in terms of history. He said, what you need to do is you need to enroll in a teacher education program because you need the teaching credentials, you need the teaching courses. And I got really lucky. So I'm a graduate of Springfield College in Springfield, Mass. And I had called the people up there, and they invited me back um, to take education courses, and they were really great to me. I had an on-campus job that helped me pay for it. I was an RA in the building,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
so they did a lot of things to make it work for me. And a year and a half later, I had got my credentials, and my advisor said, you can do your practicum or you can try and find a job. And so I called Wellesley High School. I mean, I called Wellesley Public Schools.
Yep.
And I still had really terrific relationships there from when I was a student. And I started out first as they said they could hire me as a TA. And so they hired me as a TA. And then as luck would have it, right? As fortune would have it. And I've been very blessed and fortunate my whole life. Things just seem to work for me. Somebody at the high school went out on a medical leave in the high school in the history department. And they knew I was looking for my licensure and my credentials, and they contacted me. And so the second half of the year I did my practicum and I got paid and I was a long-term sub. It just worked out for me. And
Great.
I never looked back.
Great. So you were a sales rep,
Hmm.
financially successful, and then all of a sudden you felt that was not for you. You decided to become an educator.
Yes.
Uh, did you ever get any inspiration from somebody?
Yes.
Can you
So
tell us about that? Mhm.
so um the inspiration that I had inspiration from two teachers at the that I had in high school. One was a math teacher named Rod Spur, a Marine, and then the other was Bruce Seeger, who was a science teacher. Now, let me tell you this, Meritus. Those were by far my worst subjects. Like, yet those were the people that inspired me. And they inspired me only because they were experts in their field and they took an interest in me as a young man. That's it. That's it. I didn't love math. I still don't like chemistry. Um, but they took an interest in me as a young man. They learned my story. They were curious about me. Um, if I wasn't doing as well as I could have, they took the time to find out what was
So they
going.
showed you they cared and they
Yes,
created a connection.
yes, yes. That was it.
That is awesome.
And it was just and both of them have since passed. And I was really blessed that I was able to go to their wakes and tell their families what they did for me. Um,
That is good.
and so I just, I was blessed.
Wow. This is a great story to hear. Uh, now, as an educator for many years, do you want to share with us um, some of your favorite part of this profession?
Yes. I think the relationship building
Hmm.
for me is one of the special parts of the job. Getting to know students and families and building long-lasting relationships. The other part of the job that I really enjoy is having the ability to collaborate and marshal resources to support people in need. And so for me, that's really what it is. Um, it's being able to support people, being able to build long-standing relationships based on trust and empathy and compassion to help people. And so we at Wellesley, as you know, we get all different walks of life that come through the door. I think the mistake is that people think that because it's an affluent community that kids and families don't have problems. And so what I would say is they do. I like to work with people to help solve problems and then build long lasting relationships. And so that's really based on trust and empathy. So for me, that's what it is.
I think you're right. That's a very erroneous preconception that people have about
Hmm.
affluent
Hmm.
areas like Wellesley. But can you talk about, um, one challenging area of this job or this profession?
Yeah, this is this is this is I guess what I would say I don't know, like a motivational speaker or something. Uh, I can't remember what his name was, but what his name is, but he said that like inherent in leadership
Mhm.
or what goes with the territory is that you're going to get second guests. You're going to get, you're going to get chastised, right? All these things are going to happen, on the periphery that are a little bit, that are daggers. And can you weather those? Can you keep your eye on the prize and not allow that you know, um, to take away your mission? So for me, the challenging part, being a man of color in a predominantly white institution, I think has its challenges with respect to um, all the things, the preconceived notions that happen with men of color. Okay. So I won't even go into detail there. What I would say is the challenging part, like I mentioned, is that people may not understand the reasons why you have to make certain difficult decisions. And when you make those difficult decisions, that for some may not be how they would want it to turn out, how do you continue to forge a relationship based on common ground, um, and that we can all still work together? So I think that's one of the challenges for me. I think the some of the other challenges for me um, have to be that people don't always approach me in the same curious manner and fashion that I approach other people. And so sometimes I have to, when we're not at our best selves, that I have to be understanding and I have to remain in a curious position. And sometimes that kind of stings a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, but if I'm going to be the leader that I would like to be and that I would want leading me, then I have to remain curious at all times. I have to be able to approach people with empathy. I have to remain judgment free. And so those become challenges because I'm human. So
I think those are great things to hear from a leader, like
yeah,
being curious, trying to understand others, because sometimes not doing that, looking at ourselves and our feelings, with that we might make a big mistakes. But if we are aware that we need to understand others and be
yes,
curious about them, that
yes,
will make a world of difference. Thank
yes,
you for
absolutely.
sharing that.
Yep.
Um, now, uh, do you want to share um like if somebody tells you that I would like to become an educator or a teacher, an administrator, but they are not in the field yet,
Yep.
and they want you to tell them when you get up in the morning, what excites you about going to work?
Yeah.
What are some challenges? Like some people might present it to them just with the positive things, like it's 100% exciting.
Yeah.
Or others might say, oh, this is just a difficult job. You are dealing with kids, you are dealing with parents. So, what would you tell somebody with that kind of aspiration?
What I would say is if someone has aspirations of being a teacher,
Hmm.
what I would say, or an educator, what I would say is understand your why. Understand your North Star. What is it that drives you? What, because you're in the kid business. So what is it about young people that drives you? For me, it's always been about seeing young people be successful. Like I love success. I've always loved success. I love people being successful. I don't get jealous of other people's success. I love it. It fuels me. So I would say know your why, and what is your North Star? Okay, so that's what I would say. And then what I would say is because I think those sustain you in the difficult times. Okay, having a why that you can lean on, having a North Star that you can point to. But I would say in that why and with your North Star, sometimes people aren't ready to receive the things that you wanted to give them. And so you have to be patient. And a lot of times in the school year, we think we have 180 days to do something, and change can, especially with young people, can take longer than that. And families could take longer than that. People may not be ready to receive, and I think that's the difficult part. You get up every day working really, really hard. You have kids that are just, or families that aren't ready to receive what you're trying to deliver, and that can be hard. And so I think patience in long game is what education is really about. And I think sometimes we get into the habit of wanting the quick fix. And a lot of times when we're dealing with human beings, it's not a real quick fix.
That's great. But I will ask you probably the same question,
Hmm.
almost the same question. But if we are talking with a black young man or black young woman in the United States,
Yep.
uh, how could we um, motivate them? Or in a way, how could we make this career something appealing to more young people, in
Yep.
particular, more young Black people, men and women?
I here's my answer. I wish I had the answer. If I had the magic pixie dust, boy, we'd be in a great space because we both know that there is a huge deficit when it comes to um, teachers and educators of color, right? We know that there's a deficit. What I would say is the the motivating factor um, can be that you can be your authentic self. Like you don't have to change, right? You can be your authentic self. So that's one thing I would say. The other thing that I would say in terms of motivation is education is a great way to pay it forward. It's a great way to say thank you. It's a great way um, to be reflective on your own life. It's a great way to say, like, boy, if kind of like if I had a chance to do it over again, here's what I would do. Right? I think education is a great opportunity to do those things. And so for me, if I were trying to motivate young people to get into education, I would say at the end of the day, you're gonna walk out of that school building feeling something. It could be frustration, it could be joy, um, it could be angst. But every day you walk out of there, you're going to have these feelings. And what is it about those feelings that motivate you? What is it about those feelings that drive you? And so what I would say is the motivating factors again, hey, the ability to pay it forward to say thank you, the ability to be your authentic self, that you can be, and you could bring everything that you believe in and you are as a young person into the job. Okay. And then boy, you can have a tremendous impact on young people. And so though that's what I would say. But it's hard. I'm not kidding you. It's hard. Um, but it can be really rewarding.
You make earlier a significant distinction between financial success and success in terms of fulfillment.
Yep,
Do you want to elaborate on that?
absolutely. Absolutely. Look, nobody gets into the teaching and the education business to get rich. Nobody does, right? There's something else there. And for me, when I got out of college, you know, I wanted financial success. I wanted financial success. Look, I grew up as a poor kid. I had been given so many opportunities in terms of the ability to go to a fantastic high school, going off to college, you know, and really pursuing my dreams in college. And I was, I guess, on in that rat race, and I was doing okay. You know, I could have easily stuck with that, but it just didn't feel like at the end of the day that was bringing me the happiness that I was looking for. It wasn't bringing me the happiness that I was looking for.
So
And
somehow
so
you felt a lack of meaning in what you were doing.
absolutely. And what I would say is that I didn't, at the end of the day, I was asking myself, what did I actually do and accomplish? Right. And so, yep, I provided a service for people. I did this. Yep. And we met this number and we did that. But at the end of the day, it just didn't feel like it didn't move me in any way. And so, um, having other fulfillment was important to me. And I think I can say 100% that teaching has given me that fulfillment. Education has given me that fulfillment to the point where this weekend I received a one-page letter from a former student
That
who
is great.
was thanking me for because school wasn't easy for them. They were somebody who they weren't like in the big popular crowd. School was hard for them. And they just thanked me for being a teacher that made them feel welcome. And they literally the letter told me about their kids and everything. I can't believe it. It just happened out of the blue. And I just was like, that's the fulfillment.
Yes.
That's the fulfillment, Meritus. Like,
Yeah.
didn't
And
expect it. Didn't like I'm not in this business to get letters like that. I just do what I think is right and do right by people. And I think at the end of the day, you land where you land, especially if you're being authentic and true.
so how do you connect this? That kind of surprise, thank you letter that you received from that student because you made them feel welcome, because you made them feel they were important. How do you connect that to the belongingness and the connections that we are talking about?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. What I would say is it can I'm a true believer in a couple of things. The power of hello is is enormous. Just saying hello to somebody, right? As they walk past you in the hallway or whatever. The other part of this is getting to know someone's story. Like, I think that's really important. I think as educators, it is our job to get to know people's story, get to know what they're bringing into your space, right? And I think that can be done in so many different ways as teachers, as educators. What are our kids coming into our space with? And we have to be able to find a way to ask that question. Maybe they're coming in there and they're really tired because they didn't get sleep because they're feeling stressed because one of their parents has been deployed. Maybe um, they didn't get a lot of sleep because they're trying out for a basketball team and and there's a small window in terms of the tryout and then getting home and getting doing homework. Like, so there's so many things that are going on, but we have to be curious and take an interest in kids and knowing their story. And I think if we know their story, it allows us to connect. It allows us to build trust. And I'm not saying everything has to be, sit down and you have to have 30-minute conversations all the time, but find things, ask questions, be curious, take an interest. And I think that helps foster the sense of belonging.
Okay, Drew. I have one interesting question for you.
Yes.
You have been an educator for years, successful before you became an educator, but feeling that I was not fulfilling enough for you, you
Yes.
decided to be an educator, which you like, from teacher to administrator. You get up in the morning. I know you have a long drive from home to work, and you get up in the morning full of energy going to work, as you are always full of energy when I see you.
Always.
So here's one question I'm asking you. What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun?
Mhm.
So so I've been really fortunate that I've been able to coach some sports at the high school and at the middle school. So I think I do that, and that helps me get to know more kids, right? And so for me, it's always like, where can I cast my net to meet more kids, right? And so that allows me to do that. On my free time, I love spending time with my family. I have a daughter who just graduated from Assumption University, and she just moved back
Congratulations.
home. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's great. I have a son who is, and you'll love this. I have a son who is a senior at Holy Cross, and he is studying to be a history teacher.
Wow.
So
Wow.
we're putting one in the field.
I
And
probably
so
have an idea where he gets some of his inspiration.
right. Um, I enjoy playing golf. I enjoy, going for walks and hiking with my wife. Um, I enjoy spending time with people. I enjoy, cooking on the grill and the barbecue and my smoker. I enjoy all those things. So I like to cook. So that's what I do for fun. And then I like to be around people. I like to be around people that are positive. I like to be around people that have energy and that see the glass half full, who have hope, you know, so that's really where I am, how I am. So those are the things that I enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that. I think that was a great answer. If Let me ask you one question about black people in education. Do
Yeah,
you think do you think if we had more black educators, teachers and administrators, counselors in each areas of education, do you think that would make a difference both for black students or all students of color, including white students? Do you think that would make a difference? And what kind of
ab-
difference do you think that would make?
absolutely. I think it would make a difference. Absolutely. I think it would absolutely help with our students and families feeling like they belong, right? Like, I can, Meritus, when I see you, and we say hello, I know we have a common story. I know we have a shared experience. And so automatically brings the temperature down for me. Automatically. Like we go into meetings together, and and in these meetings when I see you or somebody else, it just, again, it makes me feel like, hey, I belong, I'm here, we're here together. So I think that's a big deal. Um I think when being a young person in this day and age is really hard and really complicated. And I
Confusing
think,
too.
yes. And I think having more at the different levels of education, whether that is school counseling, right? Whether that is our in social work, whether that's as teachers, administrators, nurses, having people of color, to me, does a bunch of things, right? I think, like I said to you, it makes us feel like we belong. We have a shared story. There are people that I can go to as trusted adults. Um, and then the message that it sends to everybody else, that we too are experts in the field, that we too are well educated and well trained, that we too know how this thing works, right? We too can be resources to help people. And so um, that I think that is one of the biggest things that we can do to increase this sense of belonging is to get to diversify our staffs, uh, whether it's at central office, whether it's in high schools, middle schools, whether it's in elementary schools, or on coaching staffs.
Let's say we are giving advice to big decision makers, policy makers on education, and we want to tell them about developing some strategies to get more Black young women and men into education. What would you tell them?
I think we have to get onto campuses. Like we have to literally have to get on campuses, and we have to uh, go to these departments, and we have to find students of color and say, "Yep, I know you're studying economics, and we could use you as a teacher because you could teach economics." Right? We have to get on campus. Like I think what we have to like as Brian Stevenson says, right? Proximity matters, right? And so we got to get closer to these kids that are that are on these college campuses. Like we have to go on campuses. Like we have and it's can't be that we're just putting ads in newspapers. We have to go to where people are, and we can say like, look, um, we think you can do this. Have you considered this? These and look at the benefits of education. I also think like schools in our area, we need to develop a kind of a consortium because we may not have a math job open at Wellesley High School, but maybe Natick High School does. And if we're all working
Mhm.
together to build this pool, when we have jobs, we can talk to each other, you know, and then we can say, look, I have this great candidate. We don't have a job, but I'm passing him your way, and so I think we have to be able to do things like that as well.
I think you have a great point here because we have students, college students, seniors, juniors. They have a major, but believe it or not, and some of them are really brilliant students, and they have no clue. Although they have a major, they have no clue what they really want to do in life.
Yeah,
I think something like that would be a good guidance to them,
yeah,
and eventually create a pool of more educators of color.
yeah.
What is one thing that we haven't talked about that you would like to add?
Um, what I would say is this job, if it's done correctly, I think it's emotionally taxing. And so, where is the self-care, especially for our faculty of color? Because this job is very taxing. Um, they can be long hours. There can be a lot of investment in terms of emotional investment. I think when you're in a let's say a district like ours that we don't have a lot of faculty and administrators of color, there can be a loneliness to it. And so how do we carve out time to bring people together of color to have a community that we can share in one another's joys and share our struggles so you're not in there alone. And so that's what I would say that we could probably do a better job at carving out that time. I know at the high school I've tried to do that. At the high school during our half days, I've tried to have like a faculty of color lunch where we can kind of just no one has to talk, but for one of the few times we can all be in the majority, right? Like think about that. How many times have people of color been in the majority? Not very often. And so how do we create those spaces where faculty can be in the majority so we can take care of each other um, and make this a sustainable endeavor.
My friend Drew, thank you so much for this conversation.
My
It was definitely too short. I tried to make it short, but it's hard to make it short when there is so much to say. My
it's
only hope is that you will be back on this platform to share your ideas with us.
I would love to. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate you having me on. And I am not kidding. When I see you in our building, um, it makes me feel great. And so I'm grateful for you.
I know, and let me let you know, it's mutual.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy your Martin Luther King evening, Martin Luther King
Thank
Jr.
you.
evening. And you know, I feel particularly blessed that on this day that you asked me to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Bye.